The story of our acquaintance is truly very beautiful and romantic. This kind of thing is only written about in books and filmed. I described it briefly, practically without emotions, purely facts. But what was going on inside? Oh. Thanks in advance to everyone who reads to the end. A fairy tale awaits you ahead. It was in 2018. I worked at a fast food restaurant. One day a strange guy, Alexander, wrote to me on social networks. Without a photo and without any information about himself on the page. I politely refused. To which the following answer followed: he had seen me and been following me for several days, and he liked me. But he was embarrassed to approach me in person. At first, I thought it was all someone's prank, since Alexander did not want to tell who he was and where he came from and wished to remain anonymous. However, all this mystery did not stop us from communicating until the morning. On my part, there was terrible interest that this was all true and there was a person who was watching me. We corresponded for the next few days. I began to pay closer attention to all the glances in my direction everywhere, especially at work. But no one showed up. A couple of days later, at work, I pay attention to a strange guest who stubbornly stands only at my cash register when others are free. It was Sasha, a tall brunette with brown eyes, full lips, a piercing gaze. Oh, I love everything. I won't say that it was love at first sight, but he was handsome in appearance. Plus his manners, facial expressions, movement, gaze, everything was wonderful. When it was his turn, I sincerely smiled and greeted him. He spoke and made an order. His voice was high, slightly rough, clearly delivered. You could fall in love with his voice alone. I smiled at him. It was easy for me. It was part of my duties. But I smiled because I knew that here you were, the one with whom I communicate by correspondence. And you are beautiful in appearance. Why are you afraid to come and meet me? Sasha, on the contrary, did not smile. Tried to look serious, and he almost succeeded. Then he took his order and sat down opposite my cash register, began to look at the tablet and eat, sometimes looking up, as if to the sides, but his gaze always fell on me. I will also say that when I saw him, I couldn't even believe my eyes. Outwardly, he collected within himself that ideal image of a man that I imagined, but, as it turned out later, he was ideal not only externally, but also internally. Over the next few days, visits and observations of me were repeated. He came after work, stood up to me at the cash register. I always sincerely smiled at him. He tried to be discreet, took his order, sat down in the same place and read a book, occasionally looking up at me, and so on until the end of my work shift. When I walked home after work, he followed me. Thus he accompanied me. I wasn't scared. On the contrary, I felt safe, as if I was being protected. Upon arriving home, we already began to correspond. I wasn't going to say that I guessed everything. I was waiting for his further actions, but I began to communicate with him more confidently and without suspicion. Trust appeared. In a simple way, Sasha figured out my apartment number, when and where I was, but still did not reveal his identity to me. This went on for a week. We already corresponded constantly, until the morning. We even started reading the same book between us and discussing it. One day, during rush hour, I was driving to work, reading our book, when suddenly behind me I saw a silhouette that was already familiar to me. He accompanied me to my work in another city. He wanted to put his phone number in my bag, but he didn't succeed. I walked too fast. And then Sasha decided to attach a note to my front door with the inscription, "Let me know when you get home. Your and phone number." So we called and chatted with him for about an hour. When I asked what he was doing at the moment, he replied that he was standing and looking at my windows. I went down to him, and we finally met in person. We started communicating as if we had known each other for 100 years. I silently listened to a long story from him about how he followed me to give me my phone number, how he looked at you every evening, and then I admitted that I had long ago realized who my interlocutor was. I simply waited patiently for him to reveal all his cards. This is how our story began, but the romance in our relationship did not end there, but only began. I can write a lot more about how he gave me love letters through the cashiers when I came for bread. Or about how we went up to the roof, and there I saw from above an inscription with a declaration of love. Or how after work I found a prepared dinner and flowers at home and much, much more. But the most touching and memorable time with Sasha was when every evening, for a year, he came home tired after work. Then a few hours later he got ready and went to my work in another city to meet me from work and see me off. And then I was driving home again, and many people told me why he was doing this. Because you have been together for a long time. He has already won your heart, and he does this because he loved and loves. Love to all. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to our channel to be the first to hear about our next story.